Right, people, welcome to episode 15 of Be Brave, Be Kind, Create, the Urban Creative Clothing YouTube content channel that we've now been running for 30 weeks. I can't believe it's been 30 weeks. Big up everyone that has been locking into all of the episodes. We've got one of my favourite people in the house today. It is none other than Andy from Technimatic. So, Andy, how are you?
I'm good, man. Nice to see you, Tempza. It's lovely to do this with you. I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Obviously, the world's in a bit of a strange place as we do this. So, like everybody, just trying to stay positive, trying to kind of stay inspired. So, yeah, no, I'm good, mate.
Good man, excellent. It's nice to see your studio. Actually, I haven't seen your studio before in person, so good to see that. That's obviously where the magic happens, eh?
I guess so, mate. Yeah, I mean, what's crazy about the studio is it's been something over the years. Like when I first started writing tunes, I started out writing them on a PlayStation with like a copy of Music 2000, I think was the program. And then over time, I bought like my decks. Then I bought mixer. Then I bought my first set of monitors. Then I bought my first keyboard. And like a lot of the time, I do sit here and I look around at all of this and I'm like, how did this happen? Like it's just like spiraled into this mad cave of creativity. But it's also like it reminds me of how far things have gone and how much we've progressed and like how lucky we are to do it. So yeah, it's a cool space, man. It's a lovely place.
Very good. Sit. Awesome. Good stuff. A lot of our viewers won't, I guess, probably know, first of all, where the name Technimatic came from. And for the sake of the viewers, obviously Technimatic is a duo, isn't it? Can you tell us a bit about the setup?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, basically the way it kind of came about was me and Pete had been writing a lot of solo material independently for a long time and desperately just trying to get signed or get people to hear it. And around about this time, Drum and Bass Arena had all of their message boards, one of which was the production forum. And in the production forum was loads of people in there, like Luke LSB was in there, Metric was in there, we were obviously both in there, and we would constantly message each other and be like, look, I've made this idea, what do you think about it? Is it any good? And we would comment on each other's work, and we sort of like we brought each other up, really, like helped each other sort of find our way and work out what on earth we were supposed to be doing. And me and Pete were talking quite a bit this way, and Pete actually sent something over to me and was like, look, what do you think of this as an idea? I'm struggling to put a beat on it, what do you reckon? So I was like, okay, well, I'll have a little play around, and I ended up putting a drum beat on, sent it back to him, and he was like, oh yeah, that's sick, right, I'm just going to tweak a little bit. And then before we knew it, we were like, oh shit, like we're collaborating now. And then that developed further and further to the point where we were like, everything that we were doing together, we were just both really inspired by, like really loving it. Then we started to meet up a few times, and it all just spiraled from there, man. Like we realized that as Technicolor and Cameraman, that the stuff we were making together was better than the solo stuff. And then fast forward a little bit further on from that, we then started sending some stuff out to labels as Technicolor and Cameraman. That then got picked up eventually by Friction at Shogun, and then like the rest is history, and we sort of merged the name to Technimatic. And so yeah, even as I tell you it now, like I think about how much has happened in that period of time from us meeting and to where we are now, and like it's mad, mate. It's like I still pinch myself even now. It's what a crazy journey it's been so far.
A real journey, yeah, proper journey, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Worth mentioning, and it's come up in many a conversation before between us, but myself and Andy, for the sake of our viewers, we first met back in 2007 at a little pub called The Angel in Bedford, where we were playing a set, and I had been booked for, obviously, completely for free, for no fee, to play with a DJ called DJ Chromatic. And I didn't know who DJ Chromatic was, but it turned out to be Andy, and then obviously we joined forces with Pete Technicolor and it became Technimatic. So yeah, amazing stuff. Yeah. So just a bit more generally, how's life been for you over the last 8 months or so?
I mean, like, I don't want to sort of generalize for everybody out there. Obviously, like, I can only say what it's been like from my side. I think like this year has obviously been really, really strange. I mean, just before the lockdown happened, we were all due to play together, right? We were all due to do the print works for the outline show, and that lockdown happened the week before. Now, up until that point, this year for us, shows-wise, festivals, club shows, was going to be manically busy. Like, it was going to be one of our best ever years. And lockdown happened, and you were kind of like, okay, well, I understand why this needs to happen. Obviously, you know, we're in a mad time in the world. But it was heartbreaking. Like, I mean, for me, I do struggle mental health wise, and there's a lot of things that I do to manage that. And something like a pandemic and a lockdown where none of us can sort of see a finish line, no one really knows what any of this means, no where it's all like, there's no end point, there's no sort of goal to it, and that in its very nature, I found anyway, very unsettling. You know, if someone said, and we've spoken about this before, if someone says to you, okay, you've just got to get through this for 6 months, or you've just got to get through this for a year, or whatever it might be, and you can see that end line, you're kind of like, okay, cool, I can cope with that. So when it happened, and then it was quite clear there was no end in sight, I really struggled, man. Like, I was at points where I was starting to think, like, how are we going to pay the bills? How am I gonna, like, how are we going to survive? Like, what does the future look like? Is the world going to just descend into chaos? Like, you know, all these mad kind of thoughts and questions. So I would say, like, the initial point, I was going through some very, very dark points, like really dark points, where I was like, I'm really struggling to cope with this. But then, and this is the maddest bit of all of it, is that ended up being poured into creativity. Now, I know a lot of people have said, oh, when the lockdown happened and this whole pandemic, I couldn't even think about writing anything. I had no motivation. That was the last thing on my mind. Weirdly, for me and Pete, the absolute opposite happened. It was like opening the taps. So from sort of March, I just got to this point of resignation where I was like, I can't do anything about this. So we might as well just sit and make some music. And it literally just poured out of us. In the whole lockdown period, we've written like 22, 23 new tunes, and then about another 40 or 50 sketch ideas, which are yet to shape into something. So I guess, like, the ultimate answer to the question is really tough, real moments of kind of like darkness and thinking, oh, what is the end game here? To then flipping it on its head and being like, look, we are artists. Our best form of expression and describing how we feel is through music.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Yeah.
And that's been our sort of coping mechanism, really. That, and like a lot of exercise as well, man. Like a lot of meditation, a lot of exercise, and then a lot of writing music. So that's kind of how we've got through it, man.
The old negative to a positive, isn't it? It's the flip it on its head, the 180 turn. And yeah, I mean, so good to hear in a way that you've gone from a really dark place and obviously turned it round, because that's fantastic. Because I think there will be a lot of people out there that sort of think, well, how the hell did you get out of that frame of mind? Where, because it's not like anything's really changed, obviously. We're about to, obviously, tomorrow enter a second lockdown as well. By the time this video goes out, we will be 2 weeks into that, which is, you know, really, yeah, it's going to be, you know, an interesting time. But there is this kind of feeling of sort of despair about when is the end of it. So really, like, I think that will be useful for a lot of people to know.
I think if there's anything I can really spell out to people is that, like, you know, there's nothing to be ashamed of or frightened of or worried about if you wake up and you're like, do you know what? I'm not coping. Like, I'm not coping with this. I'm struggling. And it's absolutely fine to feel that way. That is normal, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And like, I mean, just as like a tiny little story, which I haven't ever told anybody, it came to a head for me way before the lockdown. We're talking like about 3 or 4 years ago. I was actually playing the main stage at the Quicity Festival, and I played the set, and I finished the set, I got off the stage and I just completely broke down with my wife backstage. She's like, "What's the matter? Like, what? That was amazing. Like, you've just done the main stage. It went really well." And I was like, "Do you know what? I don't even know. Like, I was so on edge. I wasn't coping mentally, and I seeked some help. And when I sought help for it, it made me understand my mind a lot better. And now when we've sort of come to a situation like this, a lockdown, where it is very difficult for a lot of us, people are losing jobs, we're losing gigs, we're losing, like, everything's upside down for everybody. I don't care who you are. In some way, everyone is being touched by this, and it's not easy. And I think the most important thing is to be just accepting enough and not be so hard on yourself and say, look, I'm not coping, and that's fine to not cope. And I'm going to try and like do a bit of exercise, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to read, or I'm going to talk to a professional, or whatever it is. And that is totally cool. And if there's anybody out there that is thinking on those lines, like, the best thing I can say is, like, don't be ashamed of it. Just go with it. And, you know, investigating it further and getting some help and all the rest of it is not a bad thing to do.
Do you ever have days as a creative where you just think, nah, not today, and you allow yourself, I suppose, the freedom and the space with which to perhaps even do nothing besides those things: exercise, meditation, maybe reading?
I've got better at it. If I'm going to be totally honest, I often had this mentality, and I still do to a certain extent, because I am very, very driven. But I was at a stage where I was sort of overworking, because I felt like if I didn't sit in here and do 12-hour sessions a day, no matter what, then I wasn't achieving anything. And that's a very dangerous mindset. You know, there's a difference between working hard and a difference of just burning yourself out, because you feel like you're driven by this fear of, yeah, but if I'm not working, I'm not achieving. And like, for what I've learned more and more and more as a creative is the time off is just as important, if not more so important, than the time that you're actually spending making music. So often the best ideas, I'm sure you can relate to this as well when you're writing lyrics, the best ideas that I often have are those ideas where I'm not in this room and I'm like out for a walk with my wife, or I'm sat watching a movie and I hear a little bit of something and I'm like, man, I can, and that starts my sort of creative brain working. And then the next morning I'll walk in here and in half an hour, 45 minutes, the idea's down and the track's writing itself. Whereas if I was to just push myself for 12 hours a day, every day, desperately trying to generate these ideas, 9 times out of 10, nothing will come of it. So yes, like, I think a lot of people have this misconception that a lot of us that are doing this at a sort of a more professional level, that we're just turning it on all the time. And it's like that struggle of when you're starting out and you can't think of anything, and you feel like you're just banging your head against a brick wall. I hate to say it, guys, but that doesn't change. Like, it's just that you get better at managing it and knowing when that moment's there and knowing when to take a step away. So we all struggle with that.
Absolutely. That's really really insightful and very helpful advice, that I think, as well. And good to know that, as you said, people, and the same with me as well, that go through those same thought processes and those same times. I think that overworking and trying to justify, like your level of productivity to yourself is one of the biggest things creatives struggle with, because there is very little to benchmark, isn't there? What does a good day as a creative look like? You know, what is there anything tangible that means it's been a good day? Because you can achieve just as much in, let's say, an hour as you can in 12 hours on some days. And, you know, you have to, I suppose, dig deep and learn a bit more about yourself.
Definitely. And I think also, you know, because it is such a mad thing that you do as a creative person anyway, you know, like, I mean, it's not like a regular job, you know, like it's not even a job. I mean, it's like we're going out and doing something that we feel really passionate about, and it's our form of expression. Yeah. And yet we're lucky enough that we sometimes get paid to do that. So, you know, like, I have had some weird days where I've sat down in the studio and I'm like, I've just spent all day working on a drum beat. Am I just like wasting my life here? Like, what am I just like a bit of a dosser, like a like a bit of a layabout? Like, what's that? And then, but it's so much of it, I think, is about managing that and realizing that a creative pursuit is always a worthwhile pursuit. And I go back to what I was saying earlier, like I sit in this room and I look around me and I think about like all the experiences that me and you have had on stage together, all the countries I've seen, the people I've met, the fans I've spoken to, like, and that is all come as a result of following a creative path and a creative dream. And like, I wouldn't change a thing, man. Like, I honestly, I wouldn't change any of it.
On that note, the lack of gigs that all creatives, all musicians, whether, I mean, not just in D&B, obviously just across the board, across the whole world at the moment, are really, really suffering with. How has that immediate transition from loads of gigs to 0 gigs, how's that been for you?
Like, hard, and not hard from a financial side, because for me, none of this is about the money. And it's always been about, like, the money is a bonus. The money has become a pure bonus.
Yeah.
Like, I love being a DJ and I love writing music. End of story. Everything else that comes on top of that is a bonus. So the hardest thing for me has been when I'm on stage and I'm DJing, that is like my meditation. Like, the moment I step on that stage and I put the headphones on and there's an audience in front of me, I just lose myself. I go into this other place that is like me, Andy, true Andy. And having the gigs disappear has meant that, like, I don't have that form of expression anymore. I don't have that escape anymore, and I don't have that ability to share my love of this music with a wider audience of people and collectively enjoy it. And that has been the hardest thing. I feel like my sort of a big part of my identity is gone because I'm not able to do that anymore. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that now, as we've progressed further down the year and the gigs haven't happened, I still desperately miss that form of expression. But it's also opened my eyes to, like, how much I was traveling, how tired I was, how much I wasn't getting to spend, like, quality time with my wife or family or friends. And the good thing about that now is that when things do go back to normal and we are gigging regularly again, I will have so much more of an appreciation for both those sides of my life than I probably did before. So yeah, mate, I miss it. Like, obviously, I'm sure you do. I desperately miss it, and I cannot. I think what it's going to do is that when we do start again, I'll just have this renewed sense of, like, not that I didn't appreciate it before. My God, like, I appreciate every second of it, and I never take it for granted. But it's just going to add that extra layer of just like, man, how much do we love this?
Yeah, so 100%. I couldn't agree more. And I guess it's a good point to make regarding the financial side of things. Obviously, as you said, you and I similarly obviously both have other interests and other, I suppose, vocations, whatever you want to call it. I know that for you, I'm aware that there's more to you than just Technimatic, obviously, as a producer DJ as well. So you also work outside of D&B, don't you?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I'm a cameraman for like the BBC, for Sky, for BT Sport, Amazon Prime. So I do like a lot of outside broadcast stuff. So I do things like centre court at Wimbledon. I would have been in Japan for the Olympics this year. I do most of, like, the match of the day stuff. But that's like that. All of that stuff, obviously, madly enough, has also been impacted by COVID just as much as the music stuff has. So even though I was always, like, sensible in the sense that the music's the passion, if it ends up, I earn some money out of it, I can make a living out of it one day, great. If not, doesn't matter, it's still a passion. Therefore, I've always had the other job to fall back on. Suddenly we're in a situation where both of them have been not effectively knocked out. So yeah, but also what's nice about having the other job is that it gives me perspective, because I'm coming in the studio and I'm not sitting here thinking, right, I need to write something because I need to release something because I then need to tour so that I can make some money. I'm very much making for the sake of music's sake. I'm not doing it for any other reason other than I'm just doing it as a form of expression. So actually, whereas it has been hard in the past juggling these two lives, more so now, it's actually given me a lot of perspective. So, but it's different for everyone, man. You know, some people feel like in order to really dedicate, they've just got to go at it full hog, and I get that, man. That's fine. Yeah. Everybody's different, but yeah. So I kind of do a bit of both, and I found that gives me a nice balance between the two.
Yeah, balance being the key thing there. Obviously, keeps us sane, most definitely. Yeah. With regards to, you know, I suppose there must be some sort of interlinking there with creativity. Obviously, the camera work that you do, the filming work that you do is a creative. It's a creative sort of, you know, job in itself, I guess, within a similar sort of industry. Did you ever sort of think to yourself, that's enough, you know, music and that is absolutely enough? Those are the two things that I do. Was that like a dedicated decision on your part to say, right, I'm good, I don't need to introduce something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, and again, I can only speak for me, but you know, I am a very sort of, I've always been, even since I was a kid, I am a very creative person. I've got like a mad imagination, and so I think no matter what the creative pursuits are, I'm always going to have this need that I need to be creating. And it just so happened that music was like my first passion and still is. And then, yeah, like you say, with the camera work, that's still a creative pursuit. But I'm always, I never sort of make a conscious decision of like, right, that's it, that's enough. So, you know, I do other little bits of creative things like the teaching school. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've ever got to a point where I've just drawn a line and said, that's it for me. They're my two creative pursuits and that's that. So like never say never. But at the same time, I feel like, you know, the music is like, it's the one thing I feel the most passionate about, and it's the one thing I feel the strongest about, and it's kind of the thing that I feel like I want to put all of my creative energy into, or as much as I possibly can. So it's less so about saying, right, that's me done, and much more so about saying, well, I'm gonna give that pursuit all the creative energy that I have. So
absolutely.
I guess that's how I look at it.
So obviously 3-4 months after the pandemic started and everything else, I think, did it kickstart anything else with you? Because I know you do have a new project, don't you? Firsthand UK. And has the pandemic helped you kickstart that, would you say? Has that been a positive? Or?
Yeah, I mean the the funny thing about Firsthand is I'd had the idea of of giving something back and helping other people progress with production for years. I talked to loads of people about it, saying how much I've often like enjoyed whenever I've had any moments in the TV work where I've taught people camera work or whatever. Like, I've really enjoyed it. I found it very rewarding, and I think it's really important to help other people and you know, help them up the ladder and share skills, because we all end up growing together that way. And the Firsthand thing, so I thought about it for ages and ages and ages and ages, and it was actually last year that I was just starting to do the mechanics of it, you know, like incorporating the business and working out the technology side of it and how I was going to teach and what it was going to look like and logos and all that kind of stuff. And then when it got to February, I think me and you actually did a Spearhead show down in Bournemouth. Yep. And I'm pretty sure that's when I'd shown you and Charlotte, like I'd mentioned to you guys first the idea that I was going to do this, and I showed you the little promo video and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then, but I wasn't ready. And then the lockdown happened, and my wife was just like, look, it doesn't matter how ready you are, like, you need to do it now, because now is the perfect opportunity. And the maddest thing about all this is that I almost didn't do it at all, because I was so frightened that people were going to look at me and go, Oh right, yeah, classic. He's just trying to cash in off the back of like some awful. And my wife was like, "Are you insane? What are you talking about? Why would people like?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know, but I don't want it to, because I don't want it to come across that way." Anyway,
that's
so
your beautiful creative mind. That is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess so, man. Yeah, it was just.
Why are we like that? Why?
I don't know, mate. It's weird, isn't it? It's like it's such a weird thing. But yeah, so the lockdown sort of forced my hand, and I felt a bit like, well, it is now or never. Just go for it, and I did it, and it's been amazing. Like the response I've had from it has been unbelievable. I've taught students like from almost every continent now, like from Canada to New Zealand to Australia to Germany to Sweden to the UK, like everywhere.
Amazing.
And it's been really lovely to just sit with these students, listen to what they're doing, and then offer them some suggestions. And then we have a session together a couple of weeks down the road, openly hear my sort of input, and that's elevated their music up another level. Well, for me, that's a beautiful thing, man. I'm just like, wow, amazing. And my hope is that then I see these students in years to come signing to labels and getting their music out there, and it's just, man, I've had more reward out of that than I ever realized I would. Like, it's been amazing to be able to give something back. So yeah, mate, it's been great.
Brilliant.
Yeah, really
good for you, mate. Definitely. And for our viewers, if anyone is interested, Andy, what is the website link?
Yeah, so it's just first-hand.co.uk.
Fantastic. We'll put it in the comments on the YouTube video.
Thanks,
absolutely, no problem at all. So I'm keen to ask all of our guests, I guess, what our slogan obviously stands for: be brave, be kind, create. And this is something that I think has become so integral to do with urban creative clothing as purely, it's I suppose more just a way of life, really. And I think each of those things, are sort of dedicated to highlighting some core elements of creative people, or the things that really we should be doing in order to maximize our potential. So what does this actually mean to you when you read it?
Well, first of all, I have to big you up on such a lovely slogan, because I think there's so much in there that resonates for me as a creative person. So I'm gonna I'll sort of break it down bit by bit, really. So the be brave part, I think the be brave part harps back to be brave enough to actually commit to a creative pursuit. Be brave enough to trust your own judgment on it, to also have confidence in what you're making. It is a big step. I get it even now. Every time we finish a piece of music and we put it out into the world, or we do a mix, or we perform, or whatever, I am always shitting myself. I'm always like, oh my God, I just hope that people like this, on a very basic level. Is anyone even going to think this is any good? So it takes a lot of bravery to stand by your convictions and say, I'm going to put my art out into the world, whatever that is, whether you're a writer, a painter, a musician, whatever it is. It takes a hell of a lot of courage and a hell of a lot of bravery to do that. So that's the first sort of part to that. And then the second part to that is that it also takes a lot of bravery to be able to manage it. Like I said earlier, I have my own massive ups and downs when it comes to creativity, and it takes a lot of bravery to admit when things are not happening and you're struggling, whether that is banging your head against a wall writing a tune, or whether that is that the lifestyle of the massive ups and downs of being on a stage and then not being on a stage is getting to you. So that also takes a lot of bravery. The be kind bit, I think, is kind of quite straightforward, really. Is don't be a dick. Ultimately, throughout this whole process, I always have had the mentality of, I don't care whether it's someone coming up to me at a rave, or whether it's someone asking me a comment online, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, and India always says it brilliantly, the kind of importance never justifies anything motto. And it's so true. It's like, stay humble, man. Like, you know, I am still the same guy that was messing around on the PlayStation making tunes on Music 2000. And regardless of whether I'm at that point in this journey or I'm playing like the main stage at Let It Roll, that does not give any form of entitlement or reason to not give people the time of day or to lose sight of like the journey of where you come from. Just be yourself, stay humble, keep your feet on the ground, be a nice person. That costs nothing. And no matter what level you get to, it doesn't cost, it shouldn't matter at all to just say, I'm just going to be me and I'm going to treat other people with respect and grace. So that's the be kind bit for me. And then the bit, you know, obviously the create thing is, it speaks for itself really. It's like along that creative pursuit and along that journey of writing and putting stuff out into the world and being an artist in whatever field it is, keep all the other stuff in the background, being brave and being kind. And I think if you can stay humble and you can maintain all that I was saying on the other two words and still stay on your creative path, then, you know, I'm not saying I've completely got it right, but you're halfway there, is what I would say.
Absolutely. I'd say that's absolutely spot on. And good to know that is essentially what goes through your head when you see that slogan, because that's exactly what we want. It really is. I think there's strength in numbers, there's strength in community, and, you know, I think if there is a sort of mantra that can be shared on that front, and I think if everybody sort of, you know, takes those things into consideration when they wake up in the morning, then it can only have a positive impact on your day, you know, which is all we can do at the moment, one day at a time, isn't it? So
100%, mate. And I think, like, even, you know, it is so important right now that with all this madness that's going on, that we really do take a moment to realize what is important. And it is people. Like, you know, I've always lived my life by this, is that, like, people, whether it's friends, family, whatever, like your next door neighbor, that is the most important thing in this kind of mad journey that we're all on, and particularly now in this like COVID era. And so as long as you kind of keep that at the forefront of everything you do, that's the bit, man. That's the bit. So just it sounds like a bit of a sort of like a hippie thing to say, but just be nice to each other, man. Just be respectful and just be nice, you know. It's pretty straightforward, 100%. Really.
It is pretty straightforward. That's exactly right. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel I got a huge amount out of that chat myself. I really enjoyed it, and I hope our viewers do too. I'm sure they will. And we wish you obviously the best of luck. And I personally will look forward to seeing you very soon.
You too, mate. You too. Look after yourself, man. And everybody out there that's watching as well, look after yourselves, man. It's not easy at the moment. So yeah, take it easy.
Big up, man. Nice one.